Nashua, New Hampshire, and it's not known. It wasn't known for Portuguese community. So I spent 3 weeks there, and then we came to Hartford. When we came to Hartford, and by the way, Danny was in the South End because the stories will make sense later. I grew up in the Parkville area. So there's two kind of communities within the community. There's a street we call Laurel Street. It was Laurel down or Pope Park up, and but we all knew each other. But there was some sort of separation. So some of the kids we didn't know as much as others until Sunday. So you come here, and the first thing you hear is the two pillars of the community, which is the church and the club. The club, as you guys know it, wasn't in Newington. The club was in Babcock Street in Hartford. It was a single home with a hall up and the downstairs bar. And so you went on a Sunday. I remembered vividly with my father, and you went there. If the home games of the Hartford Portuguese soccer team were at Colt, everybody would go there. But if it was a away game, and because you didn't have GPS, you didn't have knowledge, we all would go to the club, and then they would carpool. Like 20 cars would show up at the field. That's how you got there. And I'll never forget the first time I saw the game. I said, I want to be part of this. And I was lucky enough, I got there.
And how old were you then? How old was that start?
I was 17 when I started playing. So I was a senior. I was a senior in high school. I came here. I was 11. So it took me 6 years, but I got involved in coaching also with Victor Santos. There was a gentleman that started this thing called Hartford Dragons. He actually was he had a karate studio in Hartford. His name was Dick Vita. So I coached the younger team. Vic coached the middle team, and this Dick Vita coached the older team. I had like 8, 9 years old. So that fueled even more to really, because there was, again, pushing and within the community some players up, and it was really, really eye-opening, and like I said, it's been the backbone why I continue, because of the passion that I saw on a Sunday afternoon. And you could have a game with 300 people around field, 4 deep, and then what they would do, Dan could talk about this, they would pass the hat. What does that mean? Well, they passed the hat because that's what would pay the players and the fees and all that. And they survived years with passing the hat. It was brilliant because there was a sense of community.
Hey, I'm going to jump in because I got to tell on myself. I forgot to press the record button again this week. I'm about 50% that way. So you can see, guys, that it's Dan Gaspar and Tony Horta, and what we're talking about though is not the normal stuff about what are you doing now. We're talking about their beginnings. Tony just talked about his beginnings living in Parkville and section of Hartford. I know, Danny, you grew up on Bond Street, didn't you?
Brown Street.
Oh, Brown. Okay. And so that's where we're at. And go ahead, Dan, you're on, buddy.
Yeah, unlike me, I was born in the city of Hartford. My parents were Portuguese immigrants, very proud culture, and not college educated, but they really had a lot of principles and values and integrity, kindness and love, and all those good things that created a foundation for me personally and impacted my career. When I reflect back on my youth, there's a couple of events that have marked me. Now that I'm older, I'm able to reflect and see the impact that these events have had. And my parents used to send me some for vacation, along with Mario and Angela. And behind my grandmother's house was a patio, and that's where they would dry the vegetables or the corn. But we would clear that all out, and we would play 4v4 or 5v5, small space. We would, best player select the teams. I was always the last one picked because I was the worst player of the group. That motivated me when I went back home to the States. I would my skills and practice hours and hours in order to develop a skill set that I would pick the last one. I'd go back to summer. I went up the pecking order. The best player, the MVP, got the back home with him. The winning team went to the coffee up and the losing team just went home and they hit on. So that was an event that I thought it impacted me in terms of different age, tough love, creating a competitive desire to win. In addition to that, my best mentor, my best friend, my best coach was my dad. He was a former professional goalkeeper in Portugal and in Brazil. And he would take Coates Park, like Tony and I go there many times. And he would take his pack of balls, he would volley from the penalty spot, and I would save them. This one particular day, guys, he volleyed the balls and I let them all in. He came up to me and says, "You okay?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Do it again." All right. Put the ball back on the penalty spot, volleyed the ball, went all into the net. He comes up to me, goes, "Okay, what's wrong?" I was 15, 16 at the time. And I said, "Dad," I paused, be brave. And I said, "Dad, you can't beat me unless I want to beat me." He said, "Really?" Packed up all the balls, put them in the car, drove away, left me at the park. I walked all the way back to Brown Street. It took me a good 45 minutes to an hour. Never trained me again.
Wow.
So I lost my best coach because of my arrogance. So I learned the lesson of humility based on that experience that I had with my dad. So I carried that on throughout my life, trying to learn and grow and listen. And the last event was he would take me to London Ocean Beach and would train me in the beach. He did that so I get over the fear of diving, sand soft, and he'd just get a ball and I'd go around him one way and the next, flying. People were gathering. Don't forget, this is back in the 70s. Soccer wasn't where it is today. People were gathering and, they thought it was abuse. The security game, the life. I don't know if it's because I was in my Speedos and I was diving.
Probably. You didn't read the sign. No Speedos allowed.
But in any case, those are a couple of events. In Portugal, little town of Murted, in little cage, it was a battle, and really created my competitive, my fighting spirit. And I'm so grateful, as Tony is, our Portuguese Club of Hartford, the community. Without them, I wouldn't have had the career that I've had. So grateful for the support of the Portuguese Club of Hartford as a Portuguese community.
Just one comment. It's good he took you to Ocean Beach instead of Hammonasset because the sand is nicer there, Tony. Danny, the sand is beautiful at Ocean Beach, so you saved yourself.
It is.
Speaking of,
Go ahead, Tony.
yeah, Dan. Now, speaking of his mentor, he was actually my first coach in Harvard Portuguese. So, being, he was huger than life in our community, and kind of had a fear because you don't know. He has a son that is good. You come in. He always treated me good, and I got to know him deeper, and. He was all that. He was all that he said he was, and he was very helpful. And
Tony, I sat on the bench was when my father was the coach. That's when I sat on the bench the most, because you're right. He was absolutely a fair guy. That's when I was at Vasculama or any other place. But I think Coates Park, guys, for all of us, is an anchor. It's where our roots are. I know any milestone that I for my career, I always go back to Colts Park. I always go back to a tree that I threw the ball at. I always go back to crazy, referees like Joe Matchnick hiding underneath the car because, the crowd was going after him. I was at the Greeks one time, and this is behind my goal. There's a Greek guy in a Cadillac, another car behind my goal, and the car wouldn't move, just wouldn't move. The guy's beeping, he's beeping.
I can see that. I was in the bench. I saw that happen.
You can see that the Greek guy, he puts the car in reverse.
The Greek guy, he
had the car. Then he calls the police that the guy hit him from behind.
You remember who he was? He was a painter. He had a painting contract company, and the Portuguese guy was being not so cooperative in his mind, so he just put it on reverse and said, "I'm calling the cops myself. You don't have to." But that was Colts Park. I mean, you talk about the Portuguese, and Danny could talk about that. There was some items in that team when I grew up. I happened to play goal. And now how I got there was because I had a growing sport, and I was playing for the younger Hartford Portuguese, and the coach said, "Well, you can't run. You could go. You should be okay in goal." So, so I end up in goal, and that's how I get there. But we had the Victor Santos, we had the Roger Rosarios, Belmiro Pereira. I could go on. Alan Nunes, those guys. What we wanted to be like. Well, I wanted to play in that team and say, "Hey, I played for the Portuguese." And I look back in the club. We ought to be proud. Danny and I, obviously, we had a good career. There's been others. Victor had a career. Zeke's had a career. Alan coached in college. So when you look at it as a club that so the culture that we took from that and made ourselves was because we saw these players and really wanted to be like them. And I think at times that's there should be more to that. It should be some sort of continuity in clubs so that you have a pathway, which you're starting to see it at some levels. But I think it would be if we had less clubs and more of a pathway. And I don't want to get into clubs. You know my feeling about clubs.
And
we're talking about our youth.
Yeah, the interconnections are amazing because Alan Nunes was the University of Hartford guy, right? And all three of you were University of Hartford guys, and Victor was at Wethersfield, and and then Quinnipiac. Tony and Victor were both at Quinnipiac, and you could just keep going with the web that sort of develops over time. It's amazing.
And again, it's and he knows. Young kids that wanted to do this, some of them didn't make it there, and at that time they were a little, they had a little envy, if you will, that some of us made and others didn't. So that was good.
We were fortunate, Tony, right, to have role models, that we wanted to look up to and be like, and it wasn't easy. I mean, the first game that I played for the Hartford Portuguese, I conceded 9 goals in one game. I tell you, up before that point in training, I mean, there was no excuses, harsh, tough love. But after the game, I can't tell you the number of those guys that I idolized, that I respected, like Victor said, Belmiro, Victor Santos, Victor Rosario was another good quality striker. Alan
Billy Pereira.
Yeah. And they came up to me and they consoled me. They knew at the right time, at the right moment, when to do that. But prior to that, it was a tough road. It was very, very challenging.
Yeah. We when John and I came into it, we were, for me at least, I'm not going to speak for John. I going to Colt Park was, I grew up in Simsbury, which was a farm town then. It became kind of a ritzy suburb, but we were farmers. I grew up on the back of a farm. My dad sold farm machinery, but I went to Colt Park when I was 15 or 14, and I couldn't believe it. It was like I was in a different country, and I was an American, but I was the only guy that had an American accent, and I I found out what nights to go to train. And yeah, I think the Portuguese and the Italians run Tuesday and Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And some might have been Incas, Peruvians on Wednesdays or something. But of course the Polish were in New Britain every night by that field by the old Caldors behind
Falcon
Pulaski High
Field.
School. Yeah, Falcon Field. And so it was amazing because back then, I was like the only American guy there all the time, and it was awesome. That's how I learned how to play.
But Jimmy,
yeah,
you survived because of your talent and your quality, just like John. If you didn't have that talent and quality, you wouldn't have survived a day.
No.
So you were accepted, and to be in it's kind of odd. It's like reverse. In the soccer world at that time, to be an American and being accepted by the diversity, by the ethnic groups, was a huge challenge. And
it was.
It was like me going overseas internationally as an American. But on the reverse side, for American guys like you to come into our communities and into the various cultures to be accepted is because they knew you could help them win. They knew you could help them impact the team. Otherwise, ciao.
Yeah, it was a great experience, and I've been friends with all you guys for life as a result. And, I never really had a coach till college, and the game taught me, the players taught me. I'll never forget the first time I played against Victor Santos, man. He was a tough character.
It was an experience, right?
He taught me a few things. And Joe McWigan punched me in the side of the head. And the first time I played against him, he says, "Welcome to this world,
kid."
And I'm sure that Victor had a few choice words for you.
Arnie Ramirez says, "Hi Dan, how are you doing with your recovery?" For those of you that don't know, Dan had a total knee replacement a while back. So how's that going, Dan?
It's going well. Thank you so much. Appreciate the concern.
Yeah.
Just to go along with what Jimmy was saying, one of the reasons he's so much better than me is that 15-year-old experience I didn't have until I was 22 and getting out of UConn. So I sort of got immersed in the Hartford Soccer League culture with Hellenic at 22. And I really loved just seeing, Harvard Portuguese and Inca and Italian American Stars and all the different teams, and even going down to Vasco da Gama and Ludlow. It was quite an experience that I'm glad
you enjoyed going to Vasco da Gama.
I didn't go there much.
I'm glad you did. I remember running into the bus at Kennedy Stadium because I wasn't going to make it alive. I had a sort of a decent game that day, and they certainly let me know that you need to get on that bus. And but you know what? It was the best time of my life as far as soccer went, because there was that you had that passion. And I go back to the passion. That's the first thing that got me, is the passion that I saw. Sometimes a little bit too much because it got into the way. But you had the Greeks, you get the Italians. I mean, you would look at Colt Park and there could be 6 games going on, and all of them being with ethnicity behind them. So, and you were the only probably 1 or 2 that was going to play. That's 15 years old because you were pretty good, I mean, who that league was. We had the McCulley brothers that again were bigger than life, and so that was motivation for me and inspiration.
Yeah, it was amazing. So we always ask a couple of questions to our guests, and the first one. And the answers are usually the same, but it's always worth asking and hearing again. The first question for both of you, and that is, by the way, I want to say something about both of these guys. A lot of you know them as coaches, and I know them as coaches too, but we knew them as players. And both of these guys don't get embarrassed when I say this. If they were 6 feet tall, they would have been professional goalkeepers. They were very, very good, but they're both pretty short. So, you know, you just can't do it at 5'7" at the professional level, you know. But
yeah. Thank you, Jim. But it is honest. I'm not embarrassed by them. You know, we're
Okay.
about an inch apart. So, but I do appreciate that.
Yeah. So, you know, I've been coaching goalkeepers for quite a while now, and one thing I learned pretty quick is you can't teach height. You know? And, but anyway, so the first question is, what are some of the things you did, which you've already talked about, but what would you tell a young player who wants to become a good player? What advice would you give to that kid? Boy or girl, doesn't matter.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. A couple of things. Number one, and most importantly, you can't do it alone. You need to surround yourself with quality people. You need to surround yourself with people that have achieved that you hope to become. I am who I am today because I was surrounded by people who believed in me. They trust me. They shared their experience and knowledge and wisdom with me. They gave me opportunities to learn and grow. And as a result, I was fortunate and blessed to be surrounded by really a dream team of people. And an advice that I would give any young player is make sure that you have your family, they're supporting you, but you also want to have honest feedback from people who have achieved and have done it, who have played the game. Establish your short-term, medium goals, long-term goals with crystal clear plan. That's extremely important. Have humility. Be what I call 99%er versus the 1%er. Be the person that shows up like everybody else. Everyone shows up. They got the uniform, they got the boots, they got the ball, they got the whole kit. That's step number one. So your acceleration of growth is going to be much faster than the rest. Now, we're not robots, we're not machines. We can't do that every single day, but we need to challenge it and test ourselves. So I think that's really important. Wake up every day with a World Cup attitude. You know, I'll ask the player, and when's the World Cup? And they'll give me all sorts of dates. Well, you know, what about now? What about today? What about when you cross that line? Have a World Cup mentality, I think is really important. Any decision that I've made in life, guys, I've always thought with my brain, felt with my heart, but I made the decision with my gut. And I think the gut usually doesn't let you down. The other thing, if I had listened to experts, I probably would have never had the career that I've had. When I told people that I was going to run and work for the national team, you know how many people told me to go? Zero, including my family and my wife. But I was able to experience 2 World Cups as a result of it. So, you know, just work hard, have discipline, be courageous, be brave. It's not easy. Takes a lot of sacrifice. Like all of us, how many weddings did we miss? How many funerals did we miss? How many family events, birthdays, graduations, and et cetera? Can only speak for myself, but I missed many of those events as a result of my career. And I was grateful to have a family that supported me to achieve my dreams. The last thing I want to say, there's no secrets. There's no shortcuts. Maybe there's one. And that is the gift of failure. And what do I mean by that? And we all us four, have fallen to our knees, have dropped, and we dusted ourselves up and we got up and we kept moving forward, we kept going. Either you can believe the critics, either you can beat yourself up, fill that duffel bag with rocks and stone and slow your body down, or you can learn and grow from the experience that you had. There isn't any successful people that I'm aware of in soccer or otherwise who haven't failed before they succeeded.
That sounds great, Danny.
Fantastic.
I think with me, respect the game. I think at times kids don't understand that this game is going to be around, it's been around and respected. And you can always learn good, bad, or in between a coach. You know, you may not like that coach, but every coach will add to you if you allow them. And you know, I always say to the kid, you know, you didn't like that drill, but that drill was important to you, and someday you recognize that. Kids don't know, but if they respect and they want to be. I've always been with me is if you don't have respect for your teammates, I when I talk to the kids, I go, listen, it's team, it's player, it's club, and it's coach. So I put it in my perspective to them. I'm not there for me. I'm not because it doesn't pay for me if I was just doing for the pay. I do it because I have passion and I want to teach. So if you want to be best, then today you need to work hard. You need to respect the game. You need to listen to a coach. You need to show up in time and be ready. So you know that, you know, we all coach. You know, when they show up, you kind of could tell which kid wants to be somebody. He may be missing something. He may be missing that. Well, he doesn't have the speed, but he's smart. You know, other kids, you look at and go, okay, mom sends you here, and now you're trying to figure out if you like the game. So I say to these guys, you need to respect. So respect the game and learn from everybody in the game. That would be one thing I would tell a player. Just because it's not just come into the game if you don't want to be good, then you're wasting your time. So respect the game because others wants to be best next to you.
That's great, guys. Wow. I will transition to coaching instead of playing. And I can give you a quick story about myself, and then we want to hear sort of what advice you'd give to, say, 20-year-olds or 18-year-olds or 25-year-olds who want to just sort of create a path in the coaching profession. I left this soccer environment in Connecticut and went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, because that's where I went to grad school. And I thought, being in the middle of football country, that soccer would sort of go into the back burner a little, and I was going to try to be a college professor. And then what happened is I found players from Yale and Brown and University of Pennsylvania, and two brothers from Yugoslavia and two brothers from Bulgaria and a player from Mexico and a player from France, all on the same club team, Heidelberg Lions, a German owner, a German restaurant. And I started coaching in the Ann Arbor youth program, and I refereed in the Ann Arbor youth program. And the point is that the soccer just didn't leave me when I left the East Coast. And that's when I adjusted my professional plan to include high school teaching, because then I knew I could be a coach if I went to high school, you know. And so you know, as far as advice, probably you guys will say the same thing. It's like, if you love the game, it's very hard to leave it. And coaching was a great way to sort of extend that feeling of the game day experience, you know? So we want to hear your sort of coaching advice for young coaches.
I'm just going to say this, John, you're the only smart one out of the three of us.
Yeah.
You never coached college where you needed to depend on an 18-year-old decision to kind of win. So congratulations, never going that far. But, you know, again, you know, the passion is something that you need to bring. As a coach, if the kids see you have passion and you in the game, I think they will respect you. 18-year-olds today are smarter than we were 18 years old as far as the game. I think they know more than we did. There's more exposure, whether good, bad, or in between. When I grew up, and you guys could all attest to this, when we started playing in the old CGSA, it was 4 clubs, 5 clubs. I happened to play for a team in West Hartford, and we played against Simsbury. We played against E.O. Smith, not E.O. Smith, but, you know, Joe had a team. Farmington had a team. And that's so you were until about 15, you had the Portuguese, the Greeks, and all that were our education. Where now there's a lot more education in the game. I think that there is also, as a coach, there's a lot of stuff you try to, you know, I believe in being a purist with a kid. Some kids think that there's better there. And if you're not honest with, there's a lot of in coaching today. There's a lot of promises, and I get scared when I see those promises. So I guess I'm going in a different direction than you want me to go to, but I got into the game because of the kids, and I'm not sure that all the coaches are. So if you get into coach, do it for the right reason.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think success is doing the best with the tools that you have and then accepting the results. The acceptance is the tough part. My dad wanted me to be a professional keeper. He wanted me to be just like him. So he invested everything he had into me. And as Jimmy pointed, I didn't have physical attributes that I felt that I could be a top-level goalkeeper and provide the income and the earnings that were suitable to raise a family. So once I accepted that, then I realized, okay, what is it that I can do that I'm so passionate about, as Tony has stressed so often tonight, and keep me in the game? And, you know, that's when I reached out to Tony DeChico. We became partners. We had Soccer Plus. We had a retail shop. We had a mail order business. And we had Soccer Plus. And I went on my own and created Star Goalkeeper Academy. So, you know, you do the best you can with the tools you have. Not everybody can be a national team player. Not everybody can be a professional player. But you can be the best you can be. In terms of coaching, it's your personal approach that impacts the players. It's an awesome responsibility. Awesome. So if you go into training, you're well organized, you're sincere about your efforts, you're there for the right reason, you're keeping it dynamic, you're keeping it exciting, you're having them falling in love with the game, versus if you're there for selfish reasons, if you're there just for your own good, as an example, you know, and you're not organized, then how can you expect your players to reflect high standards if you're not exuding those high standards? So I think that's really important. And then the other thing is about education. You know, get educated. When I was at the University of Hartford as a sophomore, I went up for my national C license. In fact, I was the youngest coach in the country to get their C national license. And I was like all the other players. I thought I knew everything. Were they teach me? I'm a player. I know how to play the game. But I learned so much in my C license. You know, the mythology, the structure, the different coaching phases. And it helped me to fall in love with coaching and to become now inspiration rather than a tool of torture like my dad was at times. You know, that's what he knew. That's what he knew. You know, I mean, God, if guys like my dad generation's coaches today, boy, they wouldn't survive, you know, a few days, you know, but that's okay. There's a lot of benefit that I gain from there. So I think get educated. Again, surround yourself with quality people. If you want to be a coach, you know, look at the coaches that you admire, see how they got there, find out what their pathways are. You know, there's no need to invent anything. There's no secrets. It's just being committed, being disciplined, you know, knowing that there's going to be challenges along that journey, but having the courage and to be brave to overcome those. You know, it takes a lot of determination, man. I received a lot of rejection letters. I received a lot of rejection throughout my whole career. And you know what? It's amazing. Most of those scenarios, I've gone back and actually U.S. Soccer rejected me. I was able to come back and do, you know, Olympic team, national teams, etc., be a consultant for them on Project 2010, you know, the Federation, Tony, you know, when I was at Scolari, they sent me a letter. Thank you so much. We're very grateful for your services, but you're no longer needed. Imagine getting that letter, man. I was devastated. I thought it was over for me, you know, and I was persistent. I was determined. I was a pain in the butt, and I was able to back in to the Portuguese national team. You know, when Anson Dorrance called me up when I was with the women's national team, I was doing a camp in Maine, Jimmy, with Dennis Lukens. Okay. And I was there.
I laughed when you said Dennis.
I know. And I called up Anson Dorrance. I said, Anson, you know, and I had done some pre-qualifications. I've done some training camps. And I said, okay, Anson, I'm just trying to prepare my schedule. What's up? And there was a silence, man. And then he said, you know, Dan, I'm sorry, but you won't join us in the World Cup. Imagine getting that news when you were part of the process.
Right.
Now, years went by, guys, and I always wanted to ask him, what happened? At the NCAA or U.S. soccer or U.S. coaches convention, it was Anson and I in an elevator. And I said, Anson, I've been waiting for so many years for this moment. What happened? And I tell you, he said, Dan, I totally understand how you feel. I loved you, man. And the boys loved you. Decision was made, a salary grade much higher than me. And it was all about sponsorship. It was all about Nike sponsorship, you know? So, but we go through these, and that's what a lot of people don't know this. I'm sharing this for the first time. So you got to get up, man. You got to get up and you got to keep marching forward, marching forward, marching forward.
But I go back to what you said, because associating ourselves with good people, I've been very fortunate. I mean, I started my career coaching at St. Thomas Aquinas when the Catholic League was humongous, and I played against South Catholic with Tony, the chief of coaching, and then Austin Daniels, and that begin my pathway, because then 3 years later I ended up at UConn with Lenny, and Lenny allowed me to do a lot and learned a lot, and a good program where we were coaching good players. So that kind of opened my eye, and then I went to Hartford with Austin, and we probably did it, and I'm not patting myself, but that second year together there, we had a pretty good team, and no one gave us credit because because we came late in the process. But those are the moments that when you associate yourself with people that are doing the right thing, you learn a lot. I mean, I went to Quinnipiac, and I came from a Division I, and again, ADs that recognize talent, or senior administrators. I met with the guy, Bert Kahn was an old-time AD, but was into the kids and coaching. And we didn't have a good start, because he says, what do you think? You're coming down here because you're coming from a Division I, you're going to run the program the way you want? I said, no, but I just want to be paid what I think I should earn. So later on, we became, I was hired there after being rejected the first time because of what I asked for. But I went, we got together and I ended up there. And he said something to me one time that it always stuck with it. And this is about learning. From each coach, you should learn. There's something you should take away. And he said to me, you could coach. He just said, be more loud when you're positive and lower when you're not so positive. So bottom loud, I get low. So I took that from him, because I'm still loud. But there's things that you should take away from the coach and a leader, because there is. I hate when they all didn't learn anything. Well, you always should learn. I learned from Jim. I learned from Danny. I learned from John. I wish I could be like John sidelines. I think sometimes I want to go down there and shake him. You're all right. You're in the game. If you watch me, I'm jumping over the fence to get somebody, referee or something. But again, who we associate, and John and Jim, you guys could say the same thing, because I'm sure some people in your career that you kind of saw this person kind of help me along.
Oh, definitely. I was just going to add that, just doing the best you can all the time. And I tell this to my players, you know what? You never know who's sitting in those stands when you're playing. It could be your future boss or not, depending on how you act. It could be your future wife. You just never know. Someone's always evaluating you, whether you think so or not. And, who am I to talk? You guys have all seen me on the sideline. I get a bit crazy sometimes, But, one of the things I was going to add was that, as long as you do your best and work hard, and, soccer camps were big back in our day. I don't think they're quite as big as they used to be because of all the clubs now. Sure. But, you make a good impression as a young coach when you're working at a club or at a soccer camp with some older coaches, and they see that you work hard and that you're a good person and that you care about the players. That guy might end up recommending you for a job that you get. I mean, John got me a very good job that I had at Woodstock Academy. Austin Daniels got me the job at Hartford. Jack Huckle and Bill Swartz got me the job at Thomas. If it wasn't for those people, those are the best 3 jobs I ever had in my life. And if it wasn't for those people, I wouldn't have gotten those jobs because I was just another resume otherwise, you know. So you're always being evaluated, and you know, for good or bad. And if somebody is willing to put their reputation on the line by saying you should hire this guy, I can't think of a higher compliment somebody could give you.
And just about all of us have had that one person pushing. Quentin Kessel was a physics professor at UConn, and I was getting up at 8 o'clock every morning to go to his class after gym. You know, we played till 1:30 at night at the field house. And Quentin ended up being the best friend with the director of E.O. Smith High School.
Oh, wow.
And that's really how I got the job over maybe other people in the science department thinking I wasn't the right person. So, you know, there are those little pushes. The other thing I wanted to say, because you guys have done more than me, is professional education. I only did like a Michigan State D license and a United States Soccer Federation B license, but meeting people like Bob Gansler and Jay Miller, and just people that you can admire from a distance is also inspiring. And I'm sure you guys have had good experiences, you know, and bad, but good experiences with those coaching courses that sort of push you along too. Yeah.
You know, again, you're never too much education. You should never stop learning. That's how I look at it. I mean, I watch young coaches now next to me, and I'm trying to see, well, what's he doing and what's the purpose, you know. And so never stop learning, and that's what I would say to a young coach or an old coach. And we're all old, as we know, but.
You know, we're so blessed, really, to be in the state of Connecticut. Just think of such a small state. The type of players that we've been able to produce, the types of coaches we've been able to produce. It's really, and I want to thank both of you, Jim and John, for putting, you know, Inside Soccer together, because it's highlighting that. And I hope you continue with that process, because it's really, really amazing, the heritage and the culture. I've been impacted by many coaches on all different levels, but even our own Joe Moroni. I mean, when I was coaching the Hartford Portuguese in 1984, we went to the finals for in St. Louis to play for the Open Cup. And UConn at that time was one of the very, very few teams that was traveling around the country. And so that was rare. And so I met with Joe, and I asked him for his advice. You know, I'm traveling with the team. We're going to St. Louis, and of course, he had a list. It was unbelievable. Make sure you bring so many Soccer Americas on the phone. Make sure the roommates are done right. Make sure you have enough chewing. I mean, it was going on and on and on. But it was his attention to detail was something that I took away from him. You know, and it helped me prepare for that trip. And I mean, you know, the Connecticut Soccer League, it's impacted us all. I mean, such special players. I mean, Charlie McCauley, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a player. I've never seen a player who can impact a game like the way he did. Pedro de Brito. I remember Coach Park on the Connecticut All-Star team, and he showed up for the first time with his dad. He got out of the car. He had this huge afro. You know, about 6'2". Every step he took, every muscle, every fiber just popped. I tell you, I've been fortunate to go overseas and be surrounded by world-class players. If this guy stayed in Europe, he would have been a superstar. You know, Franz, Itamar. Remember Itamar from Ludlow?
Tamar Alves, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Three kicks that Ron Basil, Sava Santonatus, you know, was very temperamental, but what a player, you know. The Hunters, Doc Lawson. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Our Hartford Portuguese soccer team at the time was unbelievable. Dave Smith, Bob DeRico, Kyung Park, John Eno, Carlos Horta, Kevin Flynn, Eric Martin, remember him? Junior Fallon, you know, the Maroons. I mean, it was amazing. We really, you know, I think we're a state that we should be extremely proud of, really.
And you know, we all played for the Ports. I think you played as well, don't you, John? Or not?
I don't think so. No.
So, but Jimmy, you coach and played, or you just coach?
Where's that? I never played for the Ports. I always played against them. I coached the Ports.
Yeah.
I came in right after Danny. I came in right after Danny, and he came into Hartford right after me. So we have experience of hearing about the other guy. What a jerk he was, you know.
but
no, I tell you what, in that transition when I went to Hartford, Jimmy, I have to say that you're a class guy. I mean, you were honest and open and direct with me. You shared information. You were just superb. And a lot of coaches wouldn't have done that. And I really, really appreciated that. You know,
I mean, I put 12 and a half years of my life into it, you know, and I didn't leave on my terms, but it's still, what am I going to do? Tear it down? I mean, come on. And plus you were a Hartford guy. You went to Hartford. And we both have the ties. We played together on the New Britain Generals back in the old days, and so we go way back. You know,
nobody was better than you in the air, Jimmy.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys can see it. Casey Johnson's an old friend of mine, and Danny, he's an old friend of yours. He used to sell you gear when you were running Soccer Plus. Do you remember Casey?
I do, and I see
great guy. He's a Mainer. So he writes lots of great goalie coaches from Connecticut, and I could think of 10 right off the top of my head, you know?
It's amazing that we even give up a goal here in Connecticut.
I mean, we were fortunate. Think about it. Started with John, and then you guys were, you know, Soccer Plus. But I'll go back to the Harvard Portuguese with Dan. When we first started, our goalie coach was get in a goal. I mean, he hit balls at you for the next half hour and get up real quick. And then I remember I was leaving there with a scratch here and there and everywhere because we were trying to please. But there was no warm up. There was anything. And then I transitioned to coaching goalkeepers after working with John and Danny and Tony and seeing, wow, there's a way of doing that. And Danny introduced it to the Portuguese Federation and so on, but it came a long way as far as coaching goalies.
Oh God, yeah.
I just have one question for all of us. It's off topic of the goalie stuff, but what would you say your best experience on the CSL was? Connecticut Soccer League, as we knew it. What was it? Because. We all played for a lot. I mean, I coached in Ludlow, and it was a different experience than coaching the Ports. And what was your best? What did you like about it?
Yeah, well, let me start because I'm probably the least experienced of the four. Do you remember
never,
that?
John. You got over 500 wins. We never will get there together.
You're talking about Connecticut Soccer League, aren't you? Connecticut Soccer League?
Yeah.
Hey, what I remember is Steve Waters on the line right now.
I got to jump in here. John's always talking he's so humble, and I could take a lesson from that. I should be more humble than I am.
Well, you guys are making me talk more, but anyways, good question, Tony.
John, for those of you that don't know, John has the most wins of any high school coach in the history of Connecticut soccer. And I'm pushing this because by next year, Steve Waters is going to pass him out. We're going to have Steve on the show. But,
that's right.
But right now, John's still number one. And it's just amazing, you know. So anyway.
So you guys will probably agree, but remember that late summer Dillon Stadium?
The night tournament.
The night tournament.
that was so fun. I was free then. I wasn't
Yes.
working that much in the summer. And, you know, players like Charlie McCulley and Roger Hamilton and Scotty Smith, and just great players to play with and against. And there were good crowds there. And
Big
it
crowd.
was night
Saturday
games.
night.
That was
Saturday
a lot
night.
of fun.
Triple
That was-
billing. Remember,
was
there
fun.
was like a 5, 7, and 9 game. I may not have the times right, but that was some of the best times in my life. I actually played with Franz a lot with the Inca. That we were in Inca in gym.
Yeah.
The crowds were unbelievable. I mean, you had Ludlow, you had Bridgeport, you had the Porch, you had the Greek, you had Inca. It was amazing times. But so go ahead, John.
I saw
you're
John
done?
Eno. I saw John Eno score a hat trick against Ludlow, and then he was on Ludlow like 2 weeks later. They were like the New York Yankees.
They were. Because they took Franz too. Yeah.
Try coaching there. I coached there when the first year they went into the Laza League, and I was at UConn with Lanny, and so I would go to UConn, and after practice, 3 to 5, and 5 I would get to Ludlow by 6. But it was a total. We would have these Sunday morning meetings that Glenn Murray ended up playing for me the last game, and I had a contract that said I would get as much as the highest paid player. So guess what? They said, "Oh, he wants to come. We got to pay for." And I'm like, "Yeah, not only is he a good player, I'm going to make more money." So yeah, I signed it. But it was different than it was ESL. There was a lot of more money involved and
a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure, but I enjoy that tournament as well. I was going to say the meals at the Portuguese Club.
I can't beat it.
that every Sunday we would have a meal that would last for 3-4 days. You know, it was amazing the way they treated us. And I said this today on the radio. One of the things I felt very good in coaching that team is because whatever offers, whatever commitments we made to players, they fulfilled them. There was not one player that came back to me and saying, this club owes me this. Oh, this club owes me that. So for the Hartford Portuguese, I take my hat off because they were always honest and upfront with the players.
For me, it was with Vasco da Gama. When we went to Giant Stadium, and we played in the Open Final. We lost to the Maccabees, but that was quite an experience for a team representing Connecticut. Actually, it was a national competition. The other memory that I have that I'm very fond of is when we were playing the Italian American Stars, Vasco da Gama at Kennedy Stadium, and we were losing 1-0. Then at halftime, some of the Portuguese leaders are part of the Hells Angels. They came out with the motorcycles, and they came around the track, around the field. We ended up winning 3-1. But beyond the Connecticut Soccer League, but it is a Connecticut experience, and that's when I coached Connecticut Wolves and we went to Ludlow and we beat them and we won the New York champion. And finally, when we played the MLS team Tampa, probably one of the most historic games in our state history.
Valderrama.
Yes, Valderrama. And I'll tell you, there was about 9,000 people there. It was amazing. And I knew we won. We knew we won the game. We used to have this player called the Rasta. It's a Trinidadian. I tell you what, I've never in my coaching career, seen a player with such skill, such physical power. The guy was amazing. Right in front of my bench, he nutmegged Valderrama twice in a row, and I said, "That's it. We've won the game." We ended up winning the game. Unfortunately, it cost my good friend Alfonso Mandela the job, but that's a real fond memory.
Wow.
I've got one. I've got a lot, but Tony talking about Ludlow reminded me of this one. And this is when I was coaching Hartford Ports. We're playing at Ludlow. It's halftime, and we're up 1-0. And the guy is on the microphone, and he's talking to everybody. And he says, "Hartford Ports, they're not as good as they used to be. You know, they were really good last year when Gaspar was there. They went to the finals. This team's not that good. But I'll tell you one thing. If our team doesn't start playing better, we're going to release everybody after the game." So I said, hey guys, that's my halftime talk. I'm done. We won 1-0.
Oh, that's funny.
It's too bad. It's too bad those days are no longer with us, man. It really is, because even for our young players, they really need to see these types of environments. They really need to see type of passion for the game,
Yeah.
the game. You know, today it's so coach oriented, which is good. But when you go overseas, it's the players that make themselves accountable. It isn't the coaches. It's the players that are being demanded. Hey, play me the ball like you're supposed. They're pushing each other. They're the ones that are challenging each other. Here, you never. If a player does that to another player, you got to call. You got to call by your parents and, hey, you know what? Johnny spoke badly of Tommy, and now, you know, what are you going to do about it? You know. Unfortunately, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. What I'm saying is, if we want to compete on a global scale, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah. Well, we were taught. We learned from the older players, like we just talked about. And if you weren't good enough, they told you to get out. You know, and that was the end of it. You know, I loved that experience. Okay, we're running out of time, so guys, thank you so much for coming on. I knew it was going to be great, and I know some of you out there that, well, they keep talking about the CSL. It was amazing, you know.
It was amazing,
and it shaped us. It shaped us, you know, and so I'm really happy we're able to talk about that. We are going to have, if you'll come on, we'd like to have each of you come on again, like separately, and talk about your adult life and all the things you've done in the game, you know, in your adult life. But I just thought it would be really cool to do this first.
I saw a message come across from Dave Ladorette. Big shout out to you, David.
Yeah, Dave puts this up. It's great. Hi, Dan and Tony. Some of my favorite experiences involve post-match dinners on weekends, listening to Tony Horta and Austin Daniels and Sasho Swarovski discuss anything and everything soccer. A great form of coaching education. And it was. I mean, we'd go on Hellenic after the match. You know, Hellenic Club wouldn't even let us in the club. They were too busy gambling in there. So
never any gambling at that club.
We went to Franklin Giant all the time. And we'd go in the back. Yeah. So we'd sit in the back. Remember, John? We'd sit in the back at Franklin Giant, and Timmy Hunter would analyze the whole game. And of course, I'd be arguing with him, and Dorico would be arguing with him, and we'd go back and forth, and we'd be yelling. But it was awesome. We spent 2 hours after the game doing that, and you know, that was as big a part of it is the playing, really, because we ironed stuff out, you know, and you had to back up what you said, you know, and.
Yeah, Timmy could talk, but he knew a hell of a lot about soccer too.
Exactly. I've told him this, and I'll say it right here.
Yeah.
I never learned more from one single person when I was a player as I did from Timmy Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was a student of the game.
Ahead of his times.
And very high standards, no compromise. And it benefited me a great deal. We weren't buddies. We were like this a lot, you know, but it's okay. You know, we still talk now. You know?
Yeah, you know, I think that was the good times where we just left the game and then we analyzed it amongst ourselves, and we all learned from each other without, you know, being better than the other one. I think that was great. And, you know, it's sad we're talking about a league that was formed with ethnicity clubs, and there's very few. I mean, we're talking about the Hartford Portuguese being one that I could recall that still maintains teams. All the other ones have by the wayside. So when you guys know that the club burned down 3 years ago, and they're missing a home, but I just want to say that Whomever's been kind of leading that path, that they've done a great job. I also saw a thing going by Victor. Victor wanted to acknowledge that Danny, your dad was also his first coach. So your dad had a lot of firsts, and but just to wrap it up, Danny and I are about 10 years younger than the next generation we looked up to, the Victor Santos, and then there was a little gap in there, and then we had the John DeCarlos and Daddy Marks and all those guys behind, but. I thank you for thinking of the Harvard Portuguese, because there's a lot of pride, and I'm sure that they're happy that you guys extended your welcome for us to speak.
And Tony, the younger generation, Zeke Seguro, those are one of the best high school teams I've seen the last 2 years. Hall High School played beautiful soccer, and Zeke is that younger generation too, isn't he? Yeah.
He's one of those younger generation. We're very proud of what he's done. I mean, he's got 300 wins. He's chasing you. He's a little younger than you. It's funny that you guys done it and he's done it in the same place. It's almost unheard in high school soccer, and I don't know if you're going to see that longevity going forward because of the sensitivity of the other side of the game, which is the parents and the administrators.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. That was great.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. We're going to wrap it up now, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.